Hello.
Hi, can you tell us where you're from and your name?
Yeah, my name is Paul. I'm living in Sydney, but I'm from Ireland as well, so another Irish voice in the room. I really enjoyed the chat. I suppose, first of all, I kind of just stumbled in here. The title of it just really got me interested, but I found it very, very refreshing. I just wanted to know, like, is this a real conscious move away from clicks kind of thing, obviously building trust, but is it a real attempt at moving away from, you know, social media has been such a huge part of marketing and advertising the last few years? Is it like, okay, we need to find the next thing, or is it, you know, we're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and see what happens?
You go.
Yeah, look, I think what we've managed to do here with the plan that we have across the next 6 months is have a really balanced, smart strategy that allows us to reach the types of customers that we want to reach in the places where they are. The use of audio is really important, but you know, as we know as marketers, the more channels to get the same consistent message out, the more you compound the success of the campaign. And so it's not an either or. Social media from a Webjet point of view is something that we've done, but we've done very poorly. And so again, with the help of the Hallway, we're starting to look at more interesting and exciting ways that we can leverage those channels as well. So we're doing some really interesting things, for example, with Pinterest, that we've never done before, but we know has some legs in the travel industry. It's not an either or, but this is a very different move away from us because we've never done anything like this before. And that's why we thought it was really important today to talk about the storytelling opportunity of podcasts particularly.
What Oonagh said.
Hi. Thanks for the talk so far. My name is Cam, and I've got a business called The Growth Agent. We're a consulting firm that isn't quite as exciting as travel, I would say. And so my question is, you know, for a business like mine, how do I use storytelling in a way that is better than just a case study?
Do you want to take that one, Jules?
Yeah, 100%. Every business has got a story, and working out what your story is needs to be built on truths. It needs to be authentic. So build it from the inside out. Understand what it is in your business, in what you do for your clients, in the people on your team that do it, that is interesting and different, that you can leverage to create that story. Because we share information historically, and we started with the acknowledgement of country. Like, information's been shared through story because it's easy to absorb and remember. And when you're trying to communicate your business, using story rather than the features and the facts makes it more noticeable, more memorable, and that's what you're trying to create, is those memory structures. So when someone wants to buy, they know to give you a call.
Yeah, so start with that kind of authentic feeling, I guess.
100%. Build it on truths. It's got to be built on truths.
It's probably for you. You're a new marketer in a legacy business, and this is quite a revolutionary idea, which I'm a big advocate for audio here at MIK. I'm just interested in how the ideas were received internally. Like, obviously, as a marketer, you've got internal stakeholders and you've got to get things across the line. We're constantly talking, and this stage has spoken a lot about reach, but also engagement. And audio feels to give a really engaged audience. People are listening for anywhere from half an hour to an hour every week, in your case, daily. Just seeing what the temperature check was internally when you bring ideas like this up.
Yeah, look, I have to be honest, in other businesses, if I'd put this plan in front of the rest of an executive team or a board, I think the response would have been quite different. I think there would have been quite a lot of fear. The great news is that for the 6 months before I joined, this team had been working really closely with the executive team at Webjet on the brand strategy, and they'd actually built a really, really big sense of trust. And I think being the first CMO in the business, Katrina also knew my experience and what I'd done in the past, and so she really gave me carte blanche to do whatever we believed was the right thing to do as a collective. But in saying that, I'm also very lucky that Katrina herself has a strong focus on marketing in her own background, and she really genuinely also believes in that 60-40 split in favour of brand, or whatever that should be for your industry. So it's been relatively straightforward so far. However, we launched on Sunday, and I think the proof will now be in what this delivers over the next 6 months and beyond. So I think the hard work, unfortunately for me, is just starting this week.
And I might ask one second question, just because I'm being really greedy. Another recurring theme all week that we've had here is in authenticity. It's almost come up on every single panel. That's obviously key to this campaign between Webjet and Toni and Ryan. How did that come about? Because you can't fake it, obviously you're a user of the product, but how do you connect the dots as an agency with talent?
I was trying to avoid the word authenticity and calling it alignment with what audiences want. But that's exactly right. You set the strategic direction, and then so you start with brand versus performance driving activity, and then you go down into, okay, well, where are modern travelers today, and what are they engaging with? And what we found was just we couldn't ignore it. They were spending a lot of time with audio, and where that may have been radio in the past, and radio is still really strong, where they're really like cutting through in terms of trust was in that podcasting channel. And then I know we talked to, reach being a secondary KPI, but if you look at the charts, like Toni and Ryan are right up there. And then you start to look at their, explore their social channels as well, have a look at their TikTok. You can actually see the numbers there, and you can see that storytelling coming through. So you can look at the numbers, but then you can also show that really there is that engagement with the content. And how important is that? Like to actually have someone sticking with your story and the brand be at the heart of what you're doing.
But then, as we said before, we get approached by brands pretty often, and we go and think, well, what do I have to say about this? And I didn't need to go away and think about this one. I was ready to go. So the campaign would have looked a bit different if I was impartial, or we don't travel, so it doesn't matter to us. We travel a fair bit. Our audience is everywhere. So we have a lot to say about this topic. So it's worked out really well.
It's almost like you're whispering in one of your tarpers' ears, like, this is a recommendation from me.
Yeah.
Without having to be
I'll give a
explicit.
recommendation. The most underrated feature is being able to tick the maximum amount of stopovers on a long haul trip. So when I was younger, I would click the cheapest button, and you end up, oh, yep, you're going to Europe, but first you go Jetstar to Bali, then to Osaka, China, Frankfurt. But now,
when I first came to Australia,
7 flights.
7 stops.
No shit, yeah. Exactly.
I went London, somewhere in northern Greece, Athens, Bangkok, Sydney, and then I got to Melbourne.
Yeah. And so I hate, and this is my truth, is I hate layovers. It's just really annoying. And so if we're going to the UK probably next year into a few specific things, and my main thing was, can I get there with just one stop? And that's why I reckon the underrated feature is the little...
Like Qantas, go non-stop.
Yeah. Oh, not to where we're going though, but but to be able to literally tick a maximum of one stop and then see my options. I don't know how often that feature gets used. You guys probably know, but that's my favorite feature, and it's the smallest thing. But being able to have every company available, because I think one of them, one of the places we might go is Riga in Latvia, and to get there, if you type that into Qantas, you could take 7 days. But Webjet, you'll figure it out. Okay. Watch this space, Latvia.
Look at this partnership just working.
Sorry, Ryan, this question's actually for you, so you might have to steal someone else's mic. But I'm Paige, and I'm from the Hallway, work with you guys on a daily basis. But my question is directed to you. Mm-hmm. So with working with brands, so obviously you want to make sure that the branded content is authentic. Yep. And sometimes, whilst we were very lucky that we came to you and, you were already a fan of Webjet, we understand that's not always the case. Yep. So when you do have to work with a brand who you don't usually, consume their product or their service, how important is building a relationship with that brand to make sure that you're authentic, but you're also still using their key messages or what they want you to use?
Yeah. So I guess we're in a lucky position, and we just a step back as a business, we want to do this for 20 or 30 years. That's our main goal. And so we would rather have a pretty solid 20 or 30 years than a really red hot 2 years. And so sometimes that means, guys, that looks really fun. Love the look of that brand. Happy for you, but it's just maybe not us. And the ability, playing the long game, to say no to a few things that aren't quite right. Again, the difference between an ad and a branded content, we could maybe help an ad. An ad might make sense because our audience loves that. But if Toni and I don't have a personal story we go, oh, I just don't really have anything to say. And I think when you're starting out as a podcast, it's really hard to monetize. And the thought of saying no to a brand is like, how could we? I'll pretend to like it. But I mean, are we all in agreement that the influencer era where they just hold something they've clearly never used in their life and go, I just love this shit. And it's like, you've never used that. Or last week you told me you only use the competitor. And I think that era is over. And so I think it's upon us to actually say, I don't have anything to add to this conversation. So obviously the question, like, is the relationship important? Yeah. And then we get to know agencies and we get to know brands and we spend a lot of time talking about things and talking through products and using the things and using the products. But if there isn't that initial like interest point, like we've got to the point where we say, I love that, that's all good. But I don't know if any of the Acast crew are here, but Acast who work for us, they know us pretty well as well. They wouldn't have put Webjet to us if they didn't think we had something to say about it. So by the time it gets to Lily or to myself, that I reckon the guys might have something in this. And if not, well, there's a lot of great other podcasts at Acast that might be a better fit. So like the relationship's important, but I think you got to be honest and maybe for us leave some money on the table instead of pretending and lying and getting caught. So I think just really, that first point's the most important.
Thank you all so much. You've been a fantastic panel and audience. And just remember, guys, storytelling, it will grow your brand. Hang in there and use the data that you have at your disposal. Thanks, everyone.